So, as you all know, my name is Mary Nell Karras, and I'm excited to have Donna Mason with us here today from the ACT. So Donna is going to be reviewing some of the resources and products and services that the ACT offers that you all may wish to consider as you are developing your work plans for next year. So with that, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Donna because I know she has a lot of great information to share with us today.
Thank you, Mary Nell. Well, good morning, everyone. I appreciate you joining me today. I probably have met several of you at my college and career readiness workshops that I host across the state in the fall. And for those that I have not met, we had those workshops, 8 of them across the state, and I'd be glad to share with Mary Nell the schedule for this fall. In terms of our meeting this morning, Troy and Mary Nell asked me to focus on a few products, and if I don't cover something this morning, feel free to reach out to me afterwards and I'll be glad to follow up. So why are we here? We really want to talk about keeping your students on track and helping support them, whatever career and college path they may take. Let's see if I can get it on the right page here. We know back as early as the early 2000s that receiving a diploma and passing a graduation test did not necessarily ensure readiness for college and career. And we found that the non-academic factors for predicting outcomes such as persistence, retention, engagement, college are very important. And ACT developed a whole new standard, a holistic framework. And the reason I showed this slide is this is really the DNA of all of our programs. And as you can see, the 4 focus areas are core academic skills, cross-cutting capabilities, behavioral skills, and education and career navigation. And we think this framework gives you a good basic understanding how integrated a picture of education and work readiness is. Now, we know that from our research at ACT that early monitoring is very important. We want to make sure those students are on track for success by the time they get to high school. And we find that early monitoring matters and multiple dimensions matter. This is always a slide that makes people drop their mouth sometimes, that fewer than 2 in 10 8th graders are on target to be college ready at high school graduation. And we certainly don't want that to happen. So one of the areas that Troy and Mary Nell asked me to cover was about pre-ACT. Pre-ACT is our practice opportunity for the ACT. It is a paper-based test that schools can order anytime from September 1st through the end of June. And it simulates the ACT test. I had a question if pre-ACT was like Plan and Explore. And one of my colleagues said, it's like Plan and Explore except on steroids. The difference is pre-ACT simulates the ACT testing experience within a shorter testing window. It covers all 4 subjects, English, math, reading, and science, and it predicts future success on the ACT test. It also helps schools identify curriculum gaps and implement school or district-wide interventions, but it is designed to give schools strategic conversations or gives you data so you can have strategic conversations and really facilitate deeper understandings of student progress. But it helps students understand how is the ACT made up, what are the type of questions, And the pre-ACT has an interest inventory, just like the ACT. But the nice thing with the pre-ACT is you are able to have reports back within 5 to 10 business days. So some schools have ordered pre-ACT in the fall when their seniors were doing the retest, which again will happen this fall. But the majority of my schools have ordered pre-ACT in the spring when their juniors are testing and having college and career readiness day. So what you see with the score report for the students, you see they receive a composite score, just like on the ACT, and then they have the different subject scores, math, science, English, and reading, and then the STEM score is an average of math and science. And just like on the ACT test, you have the benchmarks, the ACT College Readiness benchmarks for each subject listed on their score report. And then you have the readiness range. Here's their science, the student scored 17 on the science, and their true readiness range is within a couple of points up and a couple of points down. But what is most important to many students is what is their predicted ACT composite score range, and we give ranges. So the pre-ACT, just like the ACT report, has reporting categories. So this indicates the different areas of the test and how they scored and how many they got correct out of each total. Now, with the score report for pre-ACT, the student receives an itemized response analysis. So it shows them what the correct answer was, what the incorrect answer was, and then their ideas for progress. What do they need to learn next to improve? And in terms of the educator reports, they get a summary report, so then they can identify how the students answered, what did they get right or wrong, and then they can go back and look at those specific questions and see, did they cover that in their curriculum? Do we need to tweak our curriculum? So it's a great insight for your teachers. And that's just a blow-up of the itemized response analysis for math for this particular student. Now, on the pre-ACT, you also have a career interest inventory, and it's wonderful because we, after the students do an interest inventory, we give them an interest fit, whether the interest they have indicated fits the career area that they prefer, and it's a low, medium, or high fit, just like on the ACT test. So it has those great conversations, option to have great conversations with students ahead of time before they test with the ACT. Now with the educator reports, they can see the frequency distribution, how many students scored at what score for each of the different subjects. And that's usually a very great indication, again, looking at how many students, are meeting the benchmarks. And then you can see course patterns. Are there any certain averages that are higher because they've taken, obviously, maybe more math? And then it also has the educational plans available. How many are expressing interest in certain areas? What we see nationally is there are many students that have no response on the ACT test, and I would much rather find that out earlier on so you can intervene and have those discussions about career navigation so they're not lost and don't take the opportunity on the ACT test to send scores to schools. So again, the career interest inventory, students can indicate what career cluster they're interested in. So for example, health science is the #1 major on the ACT test, and what we find is that a lot of students want to go into nursing. well, their average of their science and math may not be very high. Wouldn't you like to know earlier on what their career may be, what career interests they may have? And so if they need to implement more math and science in their curriculum, more rigorous classes, they learn that early on. And then the nice thing with pre-ACT is you can add additional questions, up to 12 local questions that can be answered, you know, A through E, and whatever, you know, are you a fear of bullying, whatever kind of questions that you want to put on there, as long as they have multiple choice answers, we can score that for you. And we don't have access, obviously, to what questions you're asking. That's all up to you, but we will score the results for you. So also with the intervention rosters, educators receive, you can see an indication of what their scores are, the number of years coursework planned, what their educational plans are, and so you can intervene early on and have those discussions with students. Now, one thing that I did not mention on the pre-ACT, just as you could with ACT, students can opt in with the EOS, the Education Opportunity Service. So if they want to have colleges and scholarship entities access their scores so they have early information sent to them, they can do that. And it's just another way students will be on the radar for colleges much earlier. And it doesn't matter that a score may be low in the, you know, student's mind, I could have done better. It means that schools can access that information. And what we have found with especially underserved students, by them opting in to the Education Opportunity Service, or the EOS, they are more likely to enroll and complete post-secondary education because they started receiving information from schools. And they receive information from schools they may not have ever heard of before. And as we know, a lot of students are not aware of all the schools that are close to them or even out of state. But by opting in, they'll start getting that information, and hopefully that can foster some conversations with you as counselors or educators. Let me see what else. The test takes about 2 hours and 10 minutes to take, and then the pre-administration is about an hour, and we recommend you do the pre-administration ahead of time. And just like the ACT, you get a STEM score, and you also get a text complexity score. Can you understand inferences between sentences? I think that's very important as we move forward in having to understand more complex text. So, does anybody have any questions? Pre-ACT is really designed for grades 9 through 12. I have had some schools order it even for their 8th grade. In fact, I think Sullivan County is doing a cohort of 8th grade this fall, and they're going to have them in a 9-week course where they're going to test them and then take that information and provide skill building for them so they can test at the end of the 9 weeks with pre-ACT and be ready. So, but before I move on, I just wanted to make sure there were no questions. Oh, it is $13.
Yes, so thank you for pausing because I completely forgot at the beginning of this call to mention that if you have questions as we go through, use the Q&A feature on the webinar and you can type them in. Everybody is currently on mute, so if you have questions, type them in. I will see them and I will ask Donna as we go. But Donna, right now I do not have any typed questions, and so I think you are probably good to move on to the next.
Okay. One comment about the pre-ACT. I can always send you the sample score report. I can send this to Mary now and she can share it if you are interested. The sample score report, the types of educator reports, and even the manual. And and how to interpret the information. We have it for the teachers, and then we also have it for the student. And it's been a great resource for schools. So now let's talk about different programs that we have available that are free for help with support for the ACT. And preparing for the ACT, a lot of schools order that. That's a free document that has a free sample test in it. And some schools have even given that to their 8th grade students. It has answers in the back of the booklet that you can pull out, but that's available. You can even download a sample test. We have free questions online. We have tips for taking the ACT all online, and I can send you all the links on this. We have question of the day, which is always wonderful. But we have a wonderful program called Open Ed, which is a free curriculum support and practice for the ACT, and that's what we were going to focus on next. Academy is kind of an umbrella of our program with Open Ed, and students can access Academy right now, and they can have free ACT practice. And what happens is you can either put your pre-ACT scores or your ACT scores, so your seniors could put their ACT scores in it right now, or even if you have practice ACT scores, what you do, you can upload that information, and Academy will develop a self-guided plan, a personalized plan based on their score reports, so they can have customized support to help them improve in each of the different subject areas. There's a full-length ACT test that they can access, but what most students do is they really want to drill down and see the fun videos, games, activities, quizzes. There's lots of ways to learn and prepare for the ACT. So here's an example of a student dashboard. They've loaded their scores in, and it shows that they're not quite there, mastered math, but they've mastered science. They really are looking at needing help in English and reading, and you can see that by the scores. So you can customize your practice the way that you want. So as you can see from this slide, there are 6 quizzes completed under science, and that's how they've improved their score. They've done 4 quizzes on English and 2 quizzes on reading. But quizzes are not the only way to learn. So here we're breaking down math, for example. You see all 6 topics are all the reporting categories that we just saw in the pre-ACT test score report, and then what you see on the ACT test. Those are all the reporting categories. So this student really has mastered integrating essential skills, and they're doing fairly well on preparing for higher math and also statistics and probability. But they really need probably to focus on algebra, and then we also see down there modeling and geometry. We know that the test has a lot of algebra and geometry. So if they've already taken the ACT test once and they're practicing for round 2, you see on this slide they can enter their scores and just skip those quizzes if they want, and then the Academy would come up with recommended videos and games that they can use if they'd like to. So here's where the student would upload their different scores in the different reporting categories, and like it says, ACT or pre-ACT. But you could put in, if you ordered those free practice or preparing for the ACT document and take the practice test for that, you can use this for that also. So here's practice under higher math, and it says 30 minutes, and there are choices of different videos. So we have videos from Khan Academy, Teacher 2, Math's Power, for example, under math, And then for science, we have many resources also. So you can see that there's videos, and then there's a little quiz there if they want to see, check their progress. And these are all recommended content based on what their score was for math and science. So there again, it just shows you a progress report as they kept practicing and how many quizzes to master their different subjects. So here's an example of a question under coordinate geometry, and they just answer the question and click next. And then it will identify whether that answer is correct, and then it will give them recommended items to practice to master that particular content. And here's just an example of all the different, we have over 25,000 resources available for students to access. Now, in terms of an educator site, educators can, if they want to invite students into a classroom, they can give students a class code, or they can create accounts for the students, or they can even invite students by email. If you have Google Classroom, it will have automatically access that, but you can also upload information from Canvas. So, for example, here, looking at the student roster, here are the students that are enrolled, and it shows the last login for students. So here's an assignment by this educator. It shows that they made an assignment to 3 particular students 7 months ago on linear expressions. And the due date, because they can add the due date. So you can customize your assignments to students based on what their need is. So that on the right side, it shows the lesson plan, and you have access to a resource library. So you can get very specific. For example, a teacher could go in and do an aggregate, do an average of the class scores, for example, in those different subject areas on the test, and then come up with a recommended curriculum and resources for that particular need. So I think that's a great option for teachers to access this information also. So here's an overview of all the students in this particular grade 6 math class, and you can add students, you can invite parents, and you see all the different homework assignments, what the percentage is on each of the assessments, and also the homework average. And all of this is free. I forgot to mention that. This is all free. So when students access the resources and complete their assignments and quizzes, the educator has access to the scores immediately in a mastery chart. So, for example, here shows certain students were not assigned certain homework, but then over here it says Mary was assigned 2-dimensional basic geometry and Marmot's map shape song, but that was not assigned to the other students. So you can really customize it to this particular student's strengths and weaknesses. So this is just drilling down, showing the particular questions that the educator can go in and see what questions they're having trouble with, and then they then can go back and provide remedial help with that. So, for example, this has question 1 of 5 under grade 6 math, and then it has recommended remedial resources that they could assign to the students. And there's a Khan Academy video evaluating exponential expressions. So it just gives you a great indication of how your class is performing and what needs to be reviewed again. So here's an English class, question 1 out of 10, and this is drilled down to the specific student. Mary's results, 50%, class average 50%, assessment mastery 80%, and it shows all the attempts that Mary has done on the different assessments. So we launched the student part of the Academy, which is kind of the umbrella. Open Ed is now ACT Academy, and we launched that back in March. Students can access ACT Academy now, and we have been told that the educator site is going to be integrated in August. The educators can access right now through Open Ed. They were just going to group everything under Academy in August, but I can send you the link and information for educators and students to access this right now. Does anybody have any questions about Open Ed or Academy before we move on?
So, Donna, I do have a question. It's not about Open Ed or Academy. It's actually going back to the pre-ACT.
Sure.
One of our participants had asked for you to share the cost of that.
It's $13, and it's a paper-based test, and you can order it at any time during the school year.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I don't see any questions about Academy at this moment, but I will let you know if we get them. But I think
Sure.
you're good to roll on to the next one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, the last thing that Mirinell and Troy asked me to talk about is social emotional learning. Going back to the ACT's holistic framework, we know that behavioral skills are very important to success in the classroom and into college and into a career. I found this old slide, and I think it's still very applicable. The relative strength of predictors of early high school GPA. What you see in middle school, academic behaviors is 31%. And I was really surprised by this statistic. You would have thought that your student demographic or maybe your academic skills would have way larger impact, but that academic behaviors is right there along with grades in middle school. So going back to ACT's holistic framework, you see that academic behaviors are very important. And we developed ACT Tessera is the name of the product that we updated. You all might be familiar with Engage, which was utilized for academic behaviors in the past, and that was under the previous Gear Up cohort. And so now, with our holistic framework, we have really narrowed in on those social emotional needs and the skills necessary to be successful. So what is ACT Tessera? Well, it's an assessment that is for middle school and high school. The difference between this and Engage, we have 6 constructs that we cover and 3 different methods of accessing the information. It is an online test. You have rapid results. And what's different is you all were asking with Engage, what was the next step? What do we do with the information once we receive that? Well, we have a teacher playbook that allows, that shares information on interventions for student growth. So I think this is a key important piece that was missing in the past that we have developed for Tessera. So we know that the importance of working together, being persistent, having that grit is really important. And in today's world, you know, coaching and consulting with students, and I know with Tennessee, chronic absenteeism is accountability factor now, and those students tend to travel through school, and you know if ahead of time before you get them that they may have issues with chronic absenteeism, but we also know that safety is an issue. Students are afraid of being bullied, and if we can identify students early on and provide support and resources for them, hopefully we can increase their success. So with TESRA, the big five: emotional stability, openness, agreeableness, conscientiousness, and extroversion. So our skill and strength with TESRA aligns to the five big focuses of SEL: grit, teamwork, resilience, curiosity, leadership, and school climate. And we know that from our research, grit is really one of the most important skills necessary to be successful. So how did we make TESRA different and engage? You know, all of our resources are always based on research, and we wanted to make sure that students could not game the system, that we wanted something that you knew you could trust and have valid reports back to you. So one of the ways that we did this is there are three different ways to access information. We have self-reported items, which is an example here of that. Then we have a situational judgment test item. I'll let you read that. And then there's a forced choice item. So those are the three different type of questions. Now, starting this fall, we have updated the type of reports available for students and educators. So students will have one-page individual student report, and it's much more simplified for students and parents to view the information. They have the 5 different focus areas. That there you see grit, teamwork, curiosity, resilience, and leadership, and then they have 4 stars that they can build upon. And then we give them more information about those 5 different focus areas, how, you know, what is grit, how to improve, and then we have a link that they can access. So the student individual report will be enhanced with more detailed constructs, and I think that's what. So here's just focused on grit and teamwork, curiosity, resilience, and then leadership. I think that it's great information for students to have and for parents also. Now, in terms of the educator reports, we've added an additional feature that you can compare to other schools. So, for example, if all the schools participating with Gear Up, you could do a cohort where you're comparing to each other if you'd like. Now, with the teacher playbook, it provides you that next step. What do you do with the information? How do you incorporate this into your classroom? What can we do to help support that student? Now, one thing to keep in mind with TESRA is you could test at the beginning of the year, and then you can test again later in the year or at the end of the year if you'd like to see progress. And TESRA is $10 per student, but if you were a former Engage user, it is $8 per student. And what I was thinking is if there are schools that did not use Engage, for example, if they were not part of the former Gear Up cohort, in terms of saving you all money, I think that Gear Up could order it for you all, and then you either Gear Up pays for it or you all pay or invoiced by, excuse me, Troy and Mary now to get that $8 pricing versus the $10. So, again, we were focusing on 3 areas today, pre-ACT, ACT Academy, and TESRA. TESRA could be used for your cohort starting in the 8th grade and continued each year if you'd like. It could be given to seniors if you'd like this fall. Pre-ACT, I think Troy and Marinelle were thinking about it for your cohort starting in the 9th grade. Like I said, pre-ACT is really designed for 9th and 10th graders, but there's no reason that it couldn't be used as a junior. And then they were thinking about ACT Academy for your seniors this year, that they could use their ACT scores and use it for practice for the senior retake. If you have any interest in any of my other programs like Aspire for 8th grade, I'll be glad to follow up on that. We were just not focusing on that today. So does anybody have any questions?
So just as a reminder, if you do have any questions, go ahead and type them in the Q&A, or you can chat them to me directly. We will hang out here for about another minute just to see if anybody types in any questions. I don't see any right now.
And again, I'll be glad to follow up and provide any materials that Marinelle can share with you all. This was just an overview. And if you want me to come and or do a webinar for your school, you know, on a particular thing, or be there face-to-face, I'll be glad to.
Okay, great. Well, just so everyone knows, we are recording this webinar, so if there's anything later that you want to go back and revisit, or if questions come up later, you're welcome to funnel them through me or reach out to Donna directly. But I do not see any questions now, so with that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up. But thank you so much, Donna, for your time today. We really appreciate you joining us, and I will let you know if I get any follow-up questions.
Great. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.